chocolate. Sweet, comforting, innocent. At least, that's what the commercials want you to believe. For decades, it's been sold as the language of love, the cure for stress, the little luxury you never feel guilty about. But peel back the shiny wrapper, and the truth is far darker than any bitter cocoa. Because what if I told you that every bite of your favorite chocolate bar might be quietly poisoning your body? And what if those same brands were built on the suffering of children you'll never see? These aren't rare scandals. They're patterns. Behind the gold foil lies a supply chain stained with toxic secrets, from dangerous metals lurking in the bars themselves, to labor practices so cruel entire families are trapped inside them. And here's the real betrayal. The names we'll uncover aren't obscure imports. They're the icons, those glossy bars lining your grocery aisles right now. Today, we're exposing 7 chocolate brands you thought you could trust. By the time we're done, you'll never look at the candy aisle the same way again. Because the chocolate you love most might just be the one hurting you the worst. Number 1. Nestlé. For decades, it's been the safe name on every shelf. The brand our parents trusted. The hot cocoa that warmed us after school. The Halloween candy we dumped onto the floor and sorted by color. Nestlé wasn't just chocolate, it was childhood. But the truth? That sweet image hides crimes darker than most people could imagine. For years, Nestlé has been tied to child labor in West Africa, the heart of the cocoa trade. And this isn't kids helping out on family farms. We're talking about children, some barely 10 years old, working with machetes longer than their arms, carrying sacks of cocoa heavier than their bodies. Days of dangerous labor, no school, no pay, no way out. Investigations have exposed this again and again. U.S. lawsuits accuse Nestlé of profiting directly from modern slavery. And every time the company responds the same way, with promises. We'll fix it by 2005. Then 2008. Then 2015. Then 2025. The deadlines keep moving, but the children never do. 20 years of promises, while the problem remains exactly the same. And while that's happening overseas, here's what Nestlé has been slipping into our homes. Independent tests in the US have found toxic metals, lead and cadmium, inside Nestlé chocolate bars. Not trace amounts, but levels that scientists warn are dangerous. These metals are linked to kidney damage, weakened bones, and developmental delays in kids. Think about that. Nestlé markets itself as the chocolate for families, for children, yet the very bars they bite into may be slowly poisoning them. And it's not just the metals. To pad profits, Nestlé stuffs its chocolate with cheap chemicals, additives banned from baby food in some countries, while still selling it to us as premium. It's not just cutting corners. It's cutting into our health. Now picture this contrast. On one side of the world, a child in a cocoa field, barefoot, swinging a blade in the sun, coughing from pesticide dust. On the other side, a child here, unwrapping a Nestlé bar, smiling, taking a bite. One child risks their body to harvest it. The other unknowingly consumes the toxins inside it. 2 children, 2 worlds. Both paying the price for Nestlé's profits. But here's what Nestlé doesn't want you to realize. It doesn't have to be this way. Smaller ethical brands already prove you can make chocolate without slavery, without poison, without lies. They pay farmers fairly. They refuse to use dangerous fillers. They create chocolate that actually respects both the people and the cocoa behind it. The only reason Nestlé doesn't follow their lead? Greed. Because the truth is simple. Nestlé built its empire on sweetness. But peel back the wrapper, and what you taste is slavery, poison, and betrayal. The next time you see that familiar logo in the candy aisle, ask yourself, do you really want to feed your family this kind of chocolate? Number 2. Hershey's. There's a reason Hershey's isn't just a chocolate bar. It's a symbol. The company built itself into the heartbeat of America. The bars and military rations during World War II. The kisses showered at parades. Hershey's doesn't just sell candy, it sells identity. For over a century, they've positioned themselves as America's chocolate. Safe, wholesome, trustworthy. But peel back the red, white, and blue wrapping, and the picture gets a lot darker. Because the same company that sells itself as patriotic and pure has been repeatedly tied to child slavery, dangerous toxins, and exploitation hidden behind its smiling ads. Investigations stretching back decades have exposed Hershey's reliance on cocoa harvested by children in West Africa. Not kids helping out at home, but children trafficked across borders, forced to swing machetes, carry heavy loads, and work brutal hours with no pay. Some are as young as 10 years old. For them, there are no s'mores, no lunchbox treats, no cozy family traditions. There's only sweat, pain, and exploitation, and Hershey's knows it. They've made promise after promise to clean up their supply chain. By 2005, by 2010, by 2020, each deadline comes. Each deadline goes. And still, the cycle of child labor continues, because it's cheap and because the profits keep rolling in. And the betrayal doesn't end in the fields. Even here in American households, Hershey's chocolate has been flagged in independent studies for containing toxic levels of lead and cadmium. Metals you'll never taste, never see, but that build up in your body over time. For children, they can stunt growth and damage the brain. For adults, they're linked to cancer and kidney failure. Sweetness turned slow poison. Hershey's wraps its products in nostalgia and wholesomeness, but inside the wrapper, it's padding profits with cheap fillers and additives, marketing them as premium while cutting every possible corner. And all the while, the company's ads keep pumping out the same message. Hershey's equals family. Hershey's equals love. Hershey's equals America. But what's more American? Family picnics and chocolate bars? Or corporate greed that poisons kids and exploits the world's poorest workers? And here's the kicker. It doesn't have to be this way. Other chocolate makers, smaller, ethical brands, have proven that you can pay farmers fairly, avoid child labor, and deliver safe, delicious chocolate without toxic metals. The only reason Hershey's hasn't done the same is because exploitation and shortcuts make more money. They've chosen greed over safety, greed over children, greed over the very values they claim to represent. Hershey's wants to be remembered as the chocolate that built childhood memories. But look closer, and the truth is clear. It's built on stolen childhoods, poisoned consumers, and a carefully manufactured lie. And really, what could be more un-American than stealing childhoods abroad while poisoning them at home? Because Hershey's isn't just America's chocolate, it's America's sweetest betrayal. Number 3. Mars. You know Mars, the company of bright candy shells, the playful M&M's mascots cracking jokes on TV, and Halloween buckets spilling over with Snickers, Twix, and Milky Way bars. For generations, Mars has wrapped itself in the image of pure fun and innocent indulgence. But peel back the wrapper, and that sweetness hides one of the darkest stories in the entire chocolate industry. Investigators have uncovered what Mars doesn't show you in its ads. In West Africa, children are forced into cocoa fields. They're trafficked, handed machetes almost as tall as their bodies, and ordered to hack open pods day after day. The work is brutal. Deep cuts, blistered hands, and backs bent under the weight of sacks heavier than their own bodies. And the company has known this for decades. They've made pledge after pledge to fix it. At one point, they swore the problem would be gone within a few years. Then they shifted the deadline, and shifted again. Each new announcement was just another way to buy time. The truth is simple. Mars has been moving the goalposts for 20 years, pretending progress is just around the corner while the exploitation rolls on. And here's the cruelest twist. The damage doesn't just stay overseas. It comes home with every candy bar. Independent tests, including Consumer Reports, have found dangerous levels of lead and cadmium in Mars products. Snickers, M&Ms, Dove, even their so-called premium chocolates. These are heavy metals, not harmless ingredients. Think about the irony. Parents slipping a candy bar into a lunchbox or handing out M&Ms at Halloween, believing they're giving their kids a harmless treat. In reality, those fun-size bites can carry risks doctors warn could last a lifetime, and Mars doesn't talk about that. Instead, they drown us in cartoon mascots, jingles, and clever marketing. The goofy M&M's characters, the smiling commercials, the rainbow colors, they're all designed to make you forget where this candy comes from and what's inside it. Melts in your mouth, not in your hand. But what's really melting is trust. Those dancing mascots aren't just entertaining kids, they're distracting families from the truth. This isn't inevitable. Smaller, ethical brands already prove you can make chocolate that's colorful, fun, and safe, without exploiting children or loading candy with toxins. It's not impossible. It's just not profitable enough for Mars. That's why every cheerful commercial feels like a cruel joke. Mars doesn't sell innocence. They sell a story, coated in sugar and color, that hides a much darker reality. They've built a multi-billion-dollar empire convincing us we're buying joy, when in truth we're buying into a cycle of misery. Mars sells candy coated in joy, but bite down, and what you really taste is slavery and poison. Number 4. Mondelez. Think of childhood. Easter morning, pastel baskets, shiny foil-wrapped Cadbury eggs waiting to be cracked open. For millions around the world, these aren't just snacks. They're memories, symbols of joy, family, and tradition. But what if I told you, behind those sweet moments lies one of the most ruthless corporations in the candy world? Because Mondelez, the parent company behind Cadbury, Toblerone, Milka, and Oreo, has built its empire not on joy, but on exploitation, lies, and even poison. Let's start with the darkest truth: child labor. Independent investigations have repeatedly tied Mondelez to the same West African cocoa networks, where children are trafficked, forced into brutal labor, and robbed of their futures. Of course, Mondelez doesn't want you to know this. That's why they flood the airwaves with glossy PR. You've probably seen it. The Cocoa Life campaign, full of smiling farmers and green fields, packaged as proof of sustainability. But here's the truth. It isn't a solution. It's a sugar coating on a rotten core. Independent watchdogs show progress is nearly non-existent. Billions are poured into branding and commercials, while the farmers at the root of the system still scrape by on scraps. Every few years, Mondelez makes shiny new promises. Each deadline is kicked further down the road. And while they stall, children keep swinging machetes. But the betrayal doesn't stop overseas. Because Cadbury bars, Toblerone, and even Oreos aren't just loaded with sugar and cheap fillers. Independent tests have found dangerous contaminants like lead and cadmium. These aren't just harmless traces. They're invisible landmines for the body. Damage you won't notice until it's too late. Parents hand their kids Cadbury chocolate thinking it's safe. But in reality, they may be handing them poison wrapped in purple foil. And while families pay with their health and children pay with their futures, cocoa farmers remain trapped in poverty. Many earn less than $1 a day. Think about that. Less than the price of a pack of Oreos. For an entire day's backbreaking labor. Meanwhile, Mondelez rakes in billions. Luxury branding built on desperation. And don't believe the excuse that this is just how chocolate works. It isn't. Ethical companies already prove you can make chocolate that's delicious, safe, and exploitation-free. Mondelez chooses not to change because misery is simply more profitable. So remember this the next time you see Cadbury, Toblerone, Milka, or Oreo stacked on store shelves. It sells you misery, exploitation, broken promises, and poison disguised as sweetness. Number 5. Ferrero. Nutella jars spread across breakfast tables, kids dipping spoons straight into the jar, Kinder eggs being cracked open, the toy rattling inside. For decades, Ferrero has sold itself as both comfort and luxury. A family brand, a childhood brand. But peel back that shiny foil, and what you find is far darker than melted chocolate. Behind the sweetness lies deforestation, stolen childhoods, and hidden toxins in every bite. Ferrero's chocolate empire depends on cocoa, harvested in West Africa, the same farms repeatedly exposed for child trafficking and slave labor. Many of these children are working to produce Kinder Surprise eggs, chocolate eggs designed, marketed, and sold for children. Made by children who never get to be one. But cocoa isn't the only stain on Ferrero's golden wrapper. Nutella's most important ingredient, second only to sugar, is palm oil. Forests are bulldozed, orangutans flee, carbon fills the sky, all for a jar of Nutella on your breakfast table. Elephants, tigers, and countless species lose their homes. Fires from deforestation pump massive amounts of carbon into the atmosphere, fueling climate change. And here's the second betrayal. What's inside the jar? Nutella has been marketed for years as a balanced breakfast, a family-friendly spread to start your day. But flip the label and the truth jumps out. It's mostly sugar, mostly palm oil. In reality, it's closer to cake frosting than nutrition. Ferrero Rocher? Dressed up like gold, wrapped in luxury packaging. But inside, it's just cheap ingredients held together with branding. And Ferrero's Kinder chocolates? Independent studies have found lead and cadmium lurking inside. Substances proven to stunt growth and harm developing brains, bite after bite. A company built on childhood joy is quietly selling childhood poison. Ferrero isn't silent about these issues. Oh no, they've mastered the art of greenwashing. They proudly boast about using 100% sustainable palm oil, flaunting their RSPO certification. But watchdog groups call RSPO a greenwashing label. It doesn't stop rainforest destruction. It doesn't stop exploitation. It just gives the company cover while they keep cashing in. Palm oil becomes sustainable. Cocoa slavery becomes responsible sourcing. Sugar bombs become family treats. Clever branding hides the crime. Number 6. Lindt. Gold foil, velvet boxes, and the promise of indulgence. Lindt truffles gleam on store shelves, catching your eye with perfection and elegance. All of it screams premium, safe, and celebratory. Chocolate that feels like a reward, a taste of perfection, a tiny moment of joy. But behind the shine, the silky texture, and the festive allure lies a darker reality. Beneath the golden velvet, Lindt chocolate is tied to exploitation, risk, and betrayal. Reports from West Africa expose the shocking truth. Children as young as 10 are forced to harvest cocoa for the brands you trust. And the danger isn't only human. Some Lindt bars contain heavy metals like lead and cadmium, metals that stunt growth, harm young brains, and quietly poison adults. Additives and fillers tucked beneath fancy labeling stretch profits while masking risks. Chocolate marketed as indulgence can double as a slow, invisible toxin. The illusion of ethics is carefully crafted. Lindt promotes responsibly sourced cocoa, but watchdogs call much of this greenwashing. Only a tiny fraction of cocoa is verified, while billions flow from bars made with exploitative practices. Marketing, sleek packaging, and corporate PR cloak the real cost, human suffering, beneath layers of gold foil and ribbon. Deforestation is another unseen cost. Cocoa farming contributes to clearing forests, reducing habitats for wildlife, and releasing carbon into the atmosphere. Every truffle, every bar, carries not only the sweat of children but the loss of ecosystems and biodiversity. Meanwhile, cocoa farmers often earn pennies a day, trapped in cycles of poverty. Every bite has a hidden cost. Wealth for the company. Misery for those who made it possible. Yet there is hope. Ethical, small-batch chocolate makers prove indulgence doesn't require cruelty. Cocoa can be harvested responsibly. Chocolate can be made without child labor, hidden toxins, or environmental destruction. Lindt's argument that it can't be done is simply a lie. It's less profitable. The choice is always theirs, but the consequences are ours. So the next time you unwrap a Lindt truffle, pause. Consider the hands that touched the cocoa long before it reached your table, the forest cleared, the children forced into labor. Number 7. Ghirardelli. Ghirardelli. Just the name evokes images of elegance, indulgence, and chocolate crafted with care. Golden wrappers glinting in Valentine's gift boxes, or a tray of chocolate squares elegantly displayed at a holiday gathering. It's chocolate as comfort, as decadence, as a tiny reward in an otherwise ordinary day. For decades, Ghirardelli has marketed itself as a symbol of trust, a taste of luxury, and the sweeter side of life. But behind that glossy packaging and polished advertising lies a darker truth. Cheap cocoa, stolen childhoods, and chemical shortcuts hidden in every square. What feels indulgent may actually come with a bitter cost. Reports tie Ghirardelli's cocoa supply to farms in West Africa, where children as young as 10 carry sacks heavier than their bodies, wield machetes far too large for their small hands, and toil from dawn to dusk without schooling. And the betrayal doesn't stop there. Independent tests have found heavy metals, including lead and cadmium, in Ghirardelli chocolate. Even the farmers producing these cocoa beans face extreme inequity. Many earn pennies a day, enduring grueling labor under harsh conditions, while the chocolate they produce is sold for hundreds of times that value. Consumers taste indulgence, farmers taste survival. Luxury may feel sweet, but the cost is paid by those invisible to the average buyer. And then there's the promise of quality. Ghirardelli markets itself as a gourmet chocolate brand, something families can trust, something safe. But sugar, palm oil, and chemical stabilizers dominate many products. A jar of chocolate spread or a chocolate square might look decadent, smell irresistible, and melt perfectly. But every bite carries a hidden ledger of inequality and risk. So, the next time you unwrap a square, pause. Ghirardelli sells elegance, comfort, and a taste of luxury. But behind every gleaming wrapper lies stolen childhoods, invisible toxins, and corporate greed. Think your chocolate is harmless? Think again. Behind every shiny wrapper, Nestle, Hershey's, Ferrero, Lindt, lies child exploitation, toxic metals, and environmental destruction. The good news? You have a choice. Ethical, fair trade chocolate exists. Every conscious purchase is a strike against greed, abuse, and harm. Don't just enjoy chocolate, make it count. Subscribe, like, and share, because staying silent lets this continue. Disclaimer. This video is based on publicly available reports, investigative journalism, and independent studies for educational purposes only. It is intended to raise awareness and inform viewers. The content is not medical, legal, or professional advice, and viewers should not rely on it as a substitute for consulting qualified experts.